Welcome back, you guys. My name is Jada if you're new here, and today we are celebrating and discussing Black fashion designers who made fashion history in such a tremendous way. This video is so special to me for so many reasons. In 2021, I actually started my own brand, designing, cutting and sewing my own pieces, which was so fun. And ever since then, I've just wanted to design, but it's really costly, especially when you don't want to go the paying people overseas to pay people and like not a livable wage route. I was a beginner seamstress, you guys. I literally bought a sewing machine. A month later, took a class. The class was a very basics class, like learning how to turn on your machine, sew a very simple straight stitch, obviously weave your bobbin, like very simple. And after that class, I was like, okay, I'm ready to start my career as a fashion designer. And honestly, it went really well. I learned a lot about business and fashion campaigning and just a lot about making something feel special and sales and so much more. I share all of that to say it's so refreshing to learn that other people have that same fire as you, especially people from the 70s, especially gay Black men who I think heavily influenced fashion culture to this day and always will, like Willi Smith, for example, the first Black fashion designer who actually defined streetwear.
Willi Smith once said, "I don't design clothes for the queen, but for the people who wave at her as she walks by," a line that speaks loudly to Willi Smith's advocacy and contribution to reshaping fashion into a more inclusive space. I first learned about Willi Smith through doing research on Andre Leon Talley, and through this, I discovered a genius that would quickly reignite the fire I have for fashion designing and learning. My fellow late Pisces king, Willi Smith, was born on February 29th, 1987 in Philly. I also have family in Philly apparently, so I'm feeling a soul tie to Mr. Willi Smith right now. Also, the week of my birthday, I had the luckiest streak of amazing thrift finds. I traveled to my hometown for the DMV, and beside the DMV, there's a thrift store. So I'm shopping around, and about 15 minutes later, I see this fuzzy black sparkly top peeking from a rack. So I walk towards it to really examine the garment structure. I love looking at the tag first just to see if I'm either familiar with the designer or to get some background knowledge on the brand, just to kind of build some sort of connection. That's just how I consciously shop and make sure I'm shopping intentionally. To have found this after filming this video just confirmed how important Willi Smith's legacy will be to me on my journey in this lifetime. Now back to Willi. Willi, growing up an artistic kid, of course, finds himself at Philadelphia Museum College of Art. He is studying illustration and realizes quickly that he wants to gain more hands-on experience with fashion designing instead. He lands an internship at Skacey through the connection of his grandmother, and he's assisting Arnold Skacey himself create garments for stars like Elizabeth Taylor and more. There he realized his clientele and designing style opposite of the work of Skacey. He leaves and goes off to Parsons, and then later gets expelled because the chair of the fashion design department, Ann Kiki, accused him of having an open affair with another male student. This, which is seemingly a setback, is when the legacy of Smith begins. To really get a better understanding of how adamant Willi Smith was to defying the odds of fashion, I'd like for you to picture a luxury retail store where they're playing classical music, the clothes are practical, the salesmen are suited, and everyone is working in an orderly fashion, very routine and almost mechanical. Across from the store opens up a more elaborate storefront with color. The design of the walls are inspired by the graffiti of New York. There's non-fashion objects displayed that make up Willi's influences in fashion. The music represents the bowling pot that is New York. There's art on the walls, and there's Willi, creating what he never saw, a new moment in fashion for common folk to connect with fashion in a way that was not previously possible. In bulletin form, I'm going to share things I learned about Willi Smith that really defined the magnitude of his work beyond the accolades and accomplishments. Number one, back then, quality clothing was a thing. Like buying new clothing, it is now sort of unheard of for a designer to give you quality clothing and affordability and inclusivity. Obviously different times as he launched Willi Wear in 1974, post-recession and Vietnam War. But the man cared about clothing far beyond the reasons that lined his pockets. Number two, to this day, it is so interesting how any brand creates a one-size-fits-all anything. Willi managing to do so while serving a wide range of body types is simply impressive. His ongoing collaboration with artists also represents the nature of his position in fashion, grounded, studious, and passionate. Number four, this quote from Smith himself stating, "My designs are so simple, I want them to be interpreted. I am not a statement designer. You do not have to wear me head to toe. I like thrift shoppers who put other things together creatively with my clothes." Number 5, his storefront, designed with sight, directly emerging the streets of New York with his fashion vision. Number 6, his art display, a representation of his think outside the box mentality. Number 7, his fashion sketches, which I want to print and frame. Number 8, it was mentioned that often when we look at baggy oversized streetwear, we look at Japan as the model, but Willi was actually doing this way before it became popular there. Number 9, he also collaborated with Spike Lee's stylist, Ruth Carter, to design the gowns for his film School Days.
And next we have Patrick Kelly.
So while Willi Smith focused on emerging the streets with fashion and American culture and demonstrating through his work what art and fashion collaboration should be, who it should speak to, and the role his clothes play in the everyday American's life, Kelly focused on bringing his influences from the South to Paris. Born in Vicksburg, Mississippi on September 24th, similar to most Black men back then, or maybe it's the same now as it was back then, but I am learning that the grandmother often played a vital role in their creative pursuit. Like Pharrell and his grandmother, Willi and his grandmother, Andre Leon Talley and his grandmother, and Patrick and his grandmother as well. I also learned that his mom actually taught him how to draw, his aunt taught him how to sew, and his grandmother served as the backbone of his inspiration with how she mended and repaired clothing for their family with an array of buttons. When I examined Kelly's work, I recognized someone who literally filled the Paris fashion rooms with color, joy, and exuberance. Similar to Willi with American streetwear at a time when other designers were sticking to tradition and routine. So he starts off at Jackson State University, then moves to Atlanta, does window designing for YSL, which is so random, so cool. And then later, still in Atlanta, he actually starts his own business, upcycling and reselling vintage clothes. He then leaves for Paris, where his legacy begins. The first thing that he designed or made was tube dresses from literal tube fabric that he turned into dresses through cutting a backless or plunge dress. This soon landed him a 6-page cover in French Elle magazine, which is insane. This recognition leads to the start of Patrick Kelly, the fashion house. Let's take a look at some of his designs and runway shows. Also mentioned that he was adamant about creating a safe space in Paris for Black models, putting them at the forefront of his designs and shows, but also a place for the gay community. Some of his designs also served as a reclamation of racist caricatures and depictions. Editing Jada here, I just want to say I realized that I put too much emphasis on Willi Smith and not as much on Patrick Kelly. And now that I've had the chance to do research on both, I feel I resonate more with Patrick Kelly. I know in the beginning I said Willi Smith is my soulmate or we have soul ties. I was kidding. But Patrick Kelly deserves his own video. And so later down the road, maybe next month, I'll do a separate video for that because he's just way too much to fit into one story. And like I said, I think I definitely resonate with him more. Like the color, the inviting this like party on stage and just just the way he really brought to Paris something that they would have never had without him. Like fun, color, excitement, authenticity, joy, a lot of joy, which was evident in the color choices, in the designs, in the details. Like, I definitely want to read more on Patrick Kelly because I did a lot with Willi Smith, especially after I saw that I owned one of his tops now. But Patrick Kelly is something special.
With that being said, this is the end of this video. I really hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Also, you guys, follow my Instagram